One more short story. Hello, and thank you for joining us for one more short story with me, Chris Fulwell, the bite-sized audiobook podcast of Writing Battle Stories. The show today is based around the current Writing Battle class. This one is the Artificer. Stories in the vein of sci-fi. And over the years I've been doing this competition, I've seen some absolute belters in the sci-fi genre. I mean, I could sit here and bang on about sci-fi all day. It's not the only genre I like, but it is a genre I do enjoy. I shall stop waxing sort of lyrical on that. We have got 4 stories today in the sci-fi or sci-fi adjacent genre. But before we begin, I wanted to let you know a couple of exciting pieces of news. Next week in episode 16, we have a slightly different episode. We have Max and Tiona Bjork, the founders of All Things Writing Battle, are joining me on a special show, the Bjork episode. I was going to call it the Bjork Takeover, but it sounds a bit like a Bourne Supremacy, but not that. Anyway, yes, next week we have Max and Tiona joining us, which is terrific. I cannot wait to share that with you. And I also wanted to let you know the exciting news that one more short story is going to be on Patreon. So watch out for that with one more short story on Patreon, and find out ways you can follow the show and support the show on there. To begin with, we have a story from this year's Tempest Raven battle. That's the first peer-judged competition of 2026. It's from the Ancient Astronauts genre, and it's by Alexis Hunter. It's called Oopsie Daisy Evolution, which is immediately one of my favourite titles. Alexis had these prompts. She had Ancient Astronauts, Switchblade and Dreamer. Very kind enough to let me narrate this, which is great because I really enjoyed this story the moment I set eyes on it. So without further ado, here is Oopsie Daisy Evolution by Alexis Hunter. Earth, present day. With a sharp snick, a blade springs free and is wedged into a natural fissure in the stone. A firm and confident tap splits the rock in 2. Separating the halves raises a chorus of appreciative gasps from the small crowd as the perfect fossil inside is revealed. This is a great example from the Paleozoic period. Can you see the difference from the sample I showed you earlier? The professor points out the hard shell, eyes, and more complex body structure. There's no middle ground between those early fossils and this leap in evolution. The Cambrian explosion has baffled scientists for years, leading to wild theories that aliens are responsible. The group laughs. Earth, 540 million years ago. This was the suckiest place Kel had ever visited. Nothing but a vast expanse of water and a bunch of brainless lifeforms eating a weird microbe sponge. There was no sound. No one to talk to. No flaxen tentacles of Unshe glistening in the twin suns to admire. Kel materialized in the scientific protection sphere on the sandy ocean floor, safe from the crushing pressures of the deep. He had been here for approximately 387 dronkons, equating to 6 Earth minutes, and he was bored. His mother's voice rang in his head. It is a great honor to complete the annual seeding, Kel. It is 1 rotation of the planet. She paused, polite tone sliding into a tired sigh. Try not to be so... you? He winced at the memory, facial barbs bristling at the weight of her disappointment even from a universe away. Individuality is not a trait prized among the Trock. Stoicism, scientific thought, and military excellence are all lauded. No self-respecting Trock would ever consider penning a sonnet.
Ugh, this is the worst,
Kel declared to the contents of the sphere, to the spongy mass and dull organisms beyond. The sphere held only 5 things: a workstation, a hologram device, a seeder, a glistening jar of seeding solution, and a disgruntled Kel. The hologram flickered to life.
"Good existence candidate,"
it said.
"I am Plegnikek. I am charged with conveying the instructions of your sacred role."
Kel tried to listen, but Plegnikek had a voice made for the crushing depths of the empty ocean on a distant planet. He droned on, and on, and on. The history of the microbial sponge is not a thrilling subject. The 8-billion-year plan to transform Earth's organisms according to the Great Trock Plan. As he watched Plegnikek demonstrating extraction techniques for the seeding solution, and the very adamant instruction that exactly 3 drops, no more, were to be distributed directly into the circumnavigating current, Kel found his mind drifting, as it so often did. To the disdain and bafflement of his family and peers, Kel did not strive for the glory of the Trock. He wished to convey the exquisite beauty and agony of existence through the sway and shape of his body. He dreamed of dancing. Tuning out Plegnikek's words left a melodic, melancholy drone. Kel felt his tentacles twitch, curl, undulate. Then he was moving. He reached, he yearned, he gave himself to the rhythm. Leaping, spinning, he swept his tentacles wide. He was a tornado of joy. He spun straight through the unbothered face of Plegnikek and slammed into the jar of seeding solution with such force that it took flight, sailed off the table, through the sphere shield, and out into the ocean. Kel froze, tentacles still extended as if he could snatch time and put everything back as it had been moments ago. "It's fine," he reassured himself. "The container is intact." The container struck a rock. Kel ceased breathing. Even from a distance he could see the hairline crack forming. Helpless, he watched as the crack spread and the container imploded, leaving a golden cloud of seeding solution suspended in the water.
"Fuck!"
Kel rushed from the sphere, his portable bodysuit engaging lest he implode also. At the sight of the implosion, a set of curious eyes peered at him through the golden haze. Kel grew more alarmed. Earth life forms are soft-celled, simplistic, sightless. He knew this from his studies. Yet here were 2 eyes staring at him from the end of stalks. Blinking. Kel reached down, prodding the stalks, squashing them back into the creature's head. Satisfied, he gave them a gentle pat.
"There. Isn't that better?"
2 delicate antennae unfurled from within the seabed. Twisting around the tip of Kel's outstretched tentacle, a slithering arthropod emerged, followed by a 3rd, newly formed critter in a swirled shell. "Nope, there's no antennae here." Kel unwound the feelers and curled them back under the creature. He tapped the shell of the small mollusk. No hard shells either. He smushed the 2 creatures back into the seabed from whence they came, taking care to cause them no harm, and scooped some sea sponge on top.
"That takes care of that."
It was only 3 small critters. No one needed to know. Pleased with his efforts, Kel rose and turned to go back to the sphere, happy to have resolved this incident to the best of his ability. Oh, shit. The ocean teemed with life. The golden cloud of seeding solution had spread as far as the eye could see, pulled by an invisible current. Everywhere he looked, Kel saw life forming. Heads emerging from the spongy ground, legs popping out from newly hardened shells, antennae unfurling, eyes opening. They scurried, floated, propelled themselves. Gelatinous apparitions sailed through the water like dancers. Kel had never seen anything quite so beautiful. The creature Kel had fixed climbed up his tentacle. He peered at it in wonder as the two stalks re-emerged, eyes round and unfathomable, existing in utter defiance of Kel's panic and the scheduled timeline of the Troc scientific agenda. Mother is going to be so mad. Blink. It's always good to read or hear from people who have an eye for the bonkers, the somewhat left field, and I think Alexis just nails that. Every time I see her go down that sort of crazy route, she does a fantastic job. Kel became a favourite of people who read this story during debrief and during the competition. Alexis did well, picked up 6 wins out of the 10 available in the house stage, picking herself up an honourable mention, just missing out on that elimination stage. But it's a lot of fun. When I read this both in the competition and in preparation for the show, it reminded me of a little bit of Douglas Adams, but also a little bit of Pratchett and a little bit of the Red Dwarf books. Those of you who, this is going back a few decades now, if you enjoyed Red Dwarf, you're in a minority like me. I did very much, and I remember reading a couple of the books, and yeah. But this reminded me of that. So very, very well done, Alexis. Our second story today comes from the Wonder Battle last year, from the sci-fi genre, and it's called A Cat Pilgrim versus the Worlds. And yes, I think that title was deliberately adjacent to the Scott Pilgrim film. It's by a writer called BD on the Writing Battle Forum. A bit mysterious. I quite like it. I like a bit of mystery. And BD's prompts were sci-fi, visionary, and coin. This has been narrated for us by Annie Benham. I'm very pleased that Annie could read this for us. We haven't had her narrating before, so I know she'll do a great job, and I know you'll all be hugely encouraging. Here we go. This is A Cat Pilgrim versus the Worlds by BD, narrated by Annie Benham.
Long ago, humans ruled the earth. Then they vanished, leaving behind only cities, satellites, and cats. Lots of cats. The feline species, always watching, always judging, inherited the world by sheer persistence and nonchalance. With time, they evolved, not just in mind, but in tech. Artificial intelligence built for companionship was reverse-engineered into cat-run bureaucracies. Cities were transformed into vertical scratching posts. In the capital, Kathmandu, feline philosophers debated pre-Purasic-era questions. Was the box made for us, or did we exist to complete the box? Are we knocking things off the table, or is the table letting go? Does the door stay closed to test our patience or our faith? But none of them spoke of Arcadestown. Except Morpheus. Morpheus was different. A barn-born adventurer with a bent tail and a brain that never stopped buzzing, he journeyed to the junk wastelands beyond the city, adoring human tech in search for meaning and salvation. Morpheus, the Cat Pilgrim. One serendipitous evening, beneath a rusting billboard of a long-dead soda brand, he found it. An arcade machine, still alive, buried in vines and plastic wrappers. Its screen flickered with its title. Space Invaders. Insert 1 coin. Beneath it, a coin sat, warm to the touch, glowing faintly, inscribed with the phrase, "To the world we dream about." Morpheus blinked. His paw trembled. He inserted the coin. 9 hearts shot up the purple sky. Objective, the lap. The human, Gregory, sits on the couch, slouched like a loaf of bread left too long in the sun. His lap, glorious, untouched, warm. But between me and destiny lies chaos, the crinkle carpet, the maze of cords, and the beast, drooling in the distance like an idiot with teeth. I move, low, silent, a shadow with whiskers, past the slippers, around the half-eaten sock, pause under the coffee table. Gregory munches loudly. Perfect. I time it. Leap, land, tail curl, victory. He startles, looks down. Oh, hey, buddy. The hand descends. Purr sequence begins. I sprawl like I've lived here for centuries. The dog sighs in defeat. World complete. Lap claimed. Human trained. Dog shamed. A chime rang, and then a memory. Not his. A human child laughing beside a cat. "You're my best friend, Marvin," she whispered. Morpheus blinked. Who was Marvin? Street Fighters. Insert 1 coin. Ah, yes, the streets, where gods fear to tread and cats lose their 9th lives. Objective, survive. I spawn in a black alley behind the Fishbone Cafe. The smell, regret, garbage, and lightly grilled sardine. My ears twitch. I'm not alone. Enter the alley lords. Scraggles, missing an ear, heart full of beef. Tabitha, faster than shame. And Beefy. No one talks about Beefy. To my right, broken glass. To my left, a pigeon the size of a melon. Above, a child yells, "Kitty!" And I feel time shorten. I move. Sprint past a rattling bin, sidestep a mop bucket ambush, vault over a fallen hot dog. Scraggles hisses. I hiss back, fluent in insult. A showdown begins. Claws out, backs arched. We dance. Fur flies, pride wobbles. Then, truck horn. Everyone scatters. I dive under a fence, land in a pile of warm laundry beside a broken microwave. Still breathing, still beautiful. World complete. Whiskers intact. Enemies confused. Dignity negotiable. Morpheus rushed to a portal within a door, climbed couch mountains, and avoided a vacuum vortex. At the summit, a strange reward. Another vision. A man in grief, sitting alone. A cat curled against his chest, absorbing silent sobs. The game whispered, "They loved us more than we ever knew." World after world, reality shifted, from sunlit kitchens to rainy doorsteps, from firework-filled skies to sterile vet clinics. Bubble bath, cucumber ambush, red laser dots, a dance revolution. Each world unlocked more forgotten memories, not Morpheus's, but theirs. The humans. They weren't mythical gods or omnipotent masters. They were messy, flawed, hurting creatures who loved imperfectly, and sometimes perhaps too perfectly. The House of the Dead. Insert 1 coin. The room was still. A simple living room, torn couch, scratched rug, sunlight pooling through dirty windows. In the center, a single recliner. Empty. Beside it, a TV flickering with static. The game spoke again in a gentle purr. This is where their hearts spoke, not with words, but in folded blankets, half-closed doors, and treats accidentally dropped. Silence. You may leave now. Return to Kathmandu. Morpheus hesitated. He'd seen what the world had forgotten. What it meant to be held. To be needed. To purr beside someone who was falling apart just to keep them from shattering completely. The cats had forgotten the song of their love. The room faded to black. He woke back in Arcadestown, but it was no longer empty. More cats had gathered, dozens, hundreds, watching as images flickered on the screen. Humans smiling, crying, holding cats, loving. Morpheus turned to face them. I know what they were, he meowed softly. They were flawed, but they remembered us in their last dreams. One kitten padded forward, eyes wide. Were they gods? Morpheus stared at the rising sun. No, he said. They were lonely, like us. Another asked, will they come back? Morpheus' whiskers twitched. Maybe not as they were, he said. But if we remember them, if we dream them, then some part of them already has. Over the next cat years, across generations of 9 lives, Arcadestown was rebuilt. Not as a junkyard and gaming battleground, but a cathedral of memory. Every whisker folk was welcome. Any cat could enter, play the levels, and feel it again, what it meant to be chosen, to be a comfort, to be someone's small, warm world. In time, cats stopped asking whether humans would return. They began asking what it meant to be human, what it meant to love. At the heart of Arcadestown, a monument stood for the feline visionary. A quote is etched in cat scratch marks. To the world we dream about, and the one we live in now. Morpheus, the cat pilgrim.
So, there we go. Morpheus, the cat pilgrim. What a great story. What a brilliant story, and very well narrated by Annie. Annie, thank you so much for doing that for us. I think you did a fantastic job. Can't believe that's your first story you have narrated for us. I think it's fair to say that a lot of the time when people read stories on Writing Battle or elsewhere, certainly when I read stories, I look at them and I think, that's awesome. I can see how they got there. I wish I'd had that idea. I wish I'd had that thought process or that quality of writing, whatever it is. Now, whilst I think this story was excellent, I would never in a million years have made the mental leap from visionary and coin to that sort of human-cat relationship explored through multiple arcade games. I wish I could sit here and say, yeah, that's the kind of thing that would have popped into my head, but it never would. And I feel I've come away from the reading and listening experience all the better for it. Just so clever, so bonkers, so wonderful, but so there's nuance in there as well. It's not just a gimmick. It's not just this will make people laugh. It's a delightfully layered story, and well, the judges at the time clearly agreed. This story got to the Sweet 16 of the sci-fi genre, did very, very well indeed. Yeah, I'll definitely be keeping an eye out on what BD gets up to in the future. Very well done indeed. Our third story today is a short and sweet sci-fi western. Now, the sci-fi western genre was in the summer battle, going back to 2024. So I'm delighted we got to include this one. This is the Skystern Union Telegram by Alex Barter. And so the prompts were sci-fi, western, farmer, and battery. It's narrated by Rhys Allen. I'm very pleased that Rhys has got to read something for us. It's another new narrator for us in this show. As ever, if you are interested in narrating and haven't been on the show before, do drop me a line and we will see if we can find the right kind of story to fit your voice. Yeah, I like a variety of writers. I like a variety of narrators. Nobody wants to sit there and just listen to me for 40 minutes. Not even me. Anyway, I shall stop waffling and get back to the important stuff, which is Alex Barter's story, The Skystern Union Telegram, narrated by Rhys Allen.
The following communications from Major Canis, found on Major Ursa's desk after the defeat at Europa.
The Skystern Union Telegram, June 20th, 3098.
We've received a request from HQ to assemble in response to growing tensions on Europa. Though our work is not yet done on Himalaya, we are moving to fulfill those orders. Expect our arrival within the month.
The Skystern Union Telegram, June 29, 3098.
Face some difficulties with outlaw ships. Recently commissioned Horses TM energy levels running low. I implore you to send replacement batteries so we may join you post-haste.
The Skystern Union Telegram, July 7, 3098.
We have set up quarters on Io in a farmer's field. He's not pleased as our horses, TM, are trampling the starfruit. So we've had to stable them below ground. We all must make sacrifices in war. Again, I urge you to send us batteries.
The Skystern Union Telegram, July 10th, 3098.
I must report some disturbing news. The farmer is a rebel sympathizer. He has poisoned the wells and fertilized the starfruit with lead. My men are dying. Our horses, TM, decommissioned. I've barely escaped, and now I write to you begging for batteries. I will return to the telegram station tomorrow for your response. The following communication from Major Ursa was found at the lone post office, uncollected.
The Skystern Union Telegram, July 11th, 3098.
Horses, TM, are solar-powered.
Just golden. Just a little slice of glory there in those 250 words. I love the series of the telegrams. I love how Reese handled the narration. Absolutely perfect. And then at the end, the horses are solar powered. Boom. Done. Thank you very much. Very, very, very funny indeed. Now, I was surprised by this story's house stage results. It picked up 5 wins and 5 losses. I'm certainly not saying that's bad. I have fared worse myself in the past, but I don't know. For me, that's a great story and deserved to pick up more than 5 votes. But hey, we could probably pour through the writing battle houses and find loads and loads and loads and loads of stories that should have had more votes. But then we'll go back and think, well, hang on, what about the stories they beat? Do they deserve less? Oh, no. And we can't have a competition where everybody wins. Or can we? No, we can't have a competition where everybody wins because that would be daft. Anyway, I think it's great. I would imagine you think it's great listening because you've got good taste, because you're listening to this podcast. Well done, Alex, and thank you again, Reese, for narrating. Before we go into our final story in this Artificer show, the sci-fi and sci-fi adjacent stories, just wanted to hark back to what I was saying earlier about the Patreon that's coming up. I am launching on that. For those of you that don't know, I didn't know much about this until recently. It's a service where you can sign up to listen to podcasts and various things. Excitingly, what I'm going to be doing is going to be launching One More Short Story Premium Edition. What that means is for a small monthly subscription, you'll get all the episodes every month, and the premium episodes will involve interviews with the writers and other little treats and bits and pieces. And there will always be free episodes. The episodes will alternate between being the regular episodes like this one, free to everyone, 3, 4 or 5 excellent stories, narrated with me yammering away in between. The episodes you already listened to and that I'm very grateful to you for listening to, and the premium episodes will be for people who want to support the show even more and who want to hear interviews with the writers and other exciting little bits and pieces around the stories. The first of those is coming up soon, so watch this space. Okay, our final story today is from this year's Tempest Owl battle, the very first battle of 2026, and it's in the biopunk genre. Now this is called Guidewire, and it's written by Nick Smith. And if you've been around in writing battle for a bit, you will know that name. He's an excellent writer. He's won it before, and he's come runner-up a bunch of times. Very, very strong writer, does some absolutely terrific stuff. And I was delighted to get his story on this podcast. I knew as soon as I read it that I wanted it to be on here. So, Nick's prompts were biopunk, veterinarian, and wine bottle. I'm going to say nothing more about the story now. Nick's been kind enough to let me narrate this one. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, if not more. Without further ado, this is Guidewire by Nick Smith. I was 12 when I carved the chip from the cow's head. We lived in the corrugated housing unit bolted to the facility's north wall. We'd been there since Dad died. Mum ran the livestock operations alone now. She used to be a real vet, back before the reforms. Now she was just a mechanic for meat. Her job was simple because the system was perfect. The cattle didn't need herding. The chip controlled them, told them when to eat and where to sleep. When they were ready, they stood up and walked themselves to the slaughter line. It's the most moral system in history, Mum liked to say, usually while scrubbing grey residue off her boots. They don't feel fear, Ethan. They don't feel anything. Eating them is no different to eating a plant. I wasn't supposed to be on the floor after shift, but I knew the codes. I'd been watching them all week, the pale, hairless things moving in single file toward the black rubber curtain. Their hooves clicked a dry rhythm on the concrete. Beneath it, the low electric thrum of the neural guide wire sang to the receivers embedded behind their ears. They never stopped, never hesitated. They walked into the dark because the algorithm told them it was time. In 3 days, I would turn 13, the cut-off date. That's when I'd sit in a chair and get my own implant to help me learn, to be efficient. Mum said it wasn't like the chips the animals had, but I couldn't see much difference. The cow I chose stood near the holding pen, waiting for the line to advance. 1,000 pounds of breathing meat, perfectly still. I'd stolen a scalpel from Mum's kit. It felt cold and heavy in my sweaty palm. The cow's skin was hot, dry as parchment. I found the ridge of the implant, the hard plastic tick buried beneath the flesh, and sliced. The smell hit instantly, copper and ozone. Blood welled up, dark and thick, slicking my fingers. The cow didn't flinch. The chip still sang, telling it that pain didn't exist. I dug deeper. The scalpel grated against skull. I levered, cutting through the wet suction of the anchors. The chip popped out. It dangled from my hand, a silver seed trailing wires and grey matter. The silence was immediate. The cow froze. Then its head snapped sideways with brutal force. Its eyes rolled white. A sound tore from its throat, a shriek high and shattered, like a child screaming down a tunnel. It staggered into the steel railing. I dropped the chip and stepped back. The cow couldn't stand, but it didn't know how to fall. Its hooves scrambled on the concrete, a marionette with its strings cut. It slammed its head into the floor. Again. Blood sprayed, mixing with the ammonia stink. "Ethan!" Mum's boots pounded down the catwalk. The cow thrashed, ribs heaving. One eye found me. There was no intelligence in it, only panic. Mum dropped to her knees. Her hand moved fast and practiced over the cow's flank, but I saw her face. Just for a moment, the horror broke through the smooth calm. "It's empty," I whispered. "There's nothing in there." She didn't answer. She knew. The brain was engineered incomplete. The chip was the mind. Without it, there was only function. Breathe, pump blood, scream. She drew her bolt pistol. Her expression slackened. Not peace, absence. The chip behind her ear hummed, sanding down the edges of a mother killing a suffering thing in front of her son. The cow went heavy. Mum holstered the gun and looked at the blood on my hands. Did you think you were saving it? I wanted to see. They're born broken, she said. The chip bridges the gap. Without it, there's only noise. Pain. We take that away. They walk to their death and don't even care. No, she said quietly. They don't. Is it the same? I asked. For us. Her jaw tightened. For a second I thought she might scream. Then smoothness rolled back over her features. You'll still be you. Well, I want to be. Clean this up, she said. Go to bed. I found her later at the window. The yard lights hummed, illuminating rows of pale cattle waiting for their signal to walk. Mum held a bottle of cheap Cabernet by the neck. She wasn't drinking, just swilling it, watching the red drip down the glass. In the reflection I saw her face twisted. Tears streamed, but she made no sound. The chip fought her, clamping down on the sob, forcing compliance. A hurricane trapped in glass. I wanted to tell her I'd refuse the chip, but truthfully there was no choice. Without it there was no future. I'd be another animal banging its head against concrete. 3 days later, I sat in the medical chair. The tech wiped behind my ear with an alcohol swab. Mum held my hand. She didn't look at me. She watched the monitor. It took 4 minutes. When I woke, the room was brighter. The world's sharp edges were gone. The knot in my stomach was gone. The questions were gone. I felt calm, peaceful. How are you feeling? Mum asked. Good, I said. And I was. That night I stood at the window. The morning line was moving, white shapes clicking toward the curtain. No guards, no hesitation, stress-free, fear-free, choice-free. Mum stood behind me. In the reflection I could see her face was damp again. I wanted to tell her it was okay, that the silence was better than the noise, that it was moral, like plucking a plant. But I didn't turn around. I watched the cattle. The Guidewire hummed beneath the floor, singing its electric lullaby. We were all going somewhere. The line moved forward whether you screamed or not. The chip behind my ear was warm and steady. It was easier this way. It was better. Nick has a track record of writing stories that are not only extremely well written, but also risk depriving you of sleep. He's got a real knack for the unsettling, but not in a schlocky way, not in a gratuitous or, nastiness for the sake of nastiness way. He knows how to get under the skin of the listener. Oh, there's a story-related comment that wasn't even intended. I didn't have that written on a big post-it note, feeling all clever about getting under the skin with the implant. That wasn't what I meant. That wasn't what I was thinking at all, but isn't that fitting? That's how good your stories are, Nick. They got under my skin so much that I made an inadvertent pun. The reasons I am banging on about that is, one, because I mean it, because I think Nick's story, like all the stories I have on this podcast, is really good. But I also wanted to reassure writers out there that a competition result that hasn't gone very well for them in the grand scheme of things doesn't really mean anything. So that was, I think, a really good story. But Nick went out with 1 win and 3 losses in the Pro Judge competition. That was a surprise to me when I saw that news. This is to say nothing of the stories it went up against. I'm not criticising anyone else's writing. I just think it was such a good story that I would have expected it to pick up a lot more points. Anyone involved in writing battle or other writing competitions, or competitions where you put yourself on the line with something you've created and let other people decide whether or not it's worthwhile. We've all had moments of disappointment, probably many of them. What I'm saying is, even writers as accomplished and experienced as Nick, who are so good and have done so well within the competition, can have duff results for whatever reason or reasons. So if writing is something you're passionate about and that gets you out of bed in the morning or the afternoon, no judgment. Don't stop. Don't give up. Okay. Thank you again for listening to One More Short Story with me, Chris Fulwell. We'll see you next time.